This is round 4 of the 1989 FF1M Championship, and it comes to you from the Phoenix Street Circuit, located somewhere in Arizona, somewhere in the United States. And it's another street circuit that we are faced with, just like the last race in Monaco, which I wasn't there for, but I'll review it anyway. It was Michele Alboreto who took a very surprised but no less deserved pole position for Willows Racing, and it was a 2-horse race between himself and Nigel Mansell, but it eventually went the way of the Tornado driver after an earlier pit stop, benefited him greatly on the newer tyres, and he won by 24.6 seconds. And it was traffic behind them that proved to be the story of the race, as Alessandro Nannini, despite a slower car it seems, took 3rd position, and he had a queue of cars right behind him from 3rd all the way down to 9th, separated by just 5 seconds, and they consisted of Piquet in 4th, Patrese in 5th, Nakajima 6th, Prost 7th, Modena 8th, and Boutsen in 9th. There was another driver in amongst that lot. Martin Brundle was running 4th before he crashed out of the swimming pool late on. And anyway, we're on round 4 now, and there's a look at the circuit, and it's full of 90-degree corners, but at least they've got a fun little section halfway around the lap with a quick right followed by a quick left. We're expecting chaos here because we've got walls everywhere and a grueling race in front of us. 81 laps, and the lap time's only at 1 minute and 26 seconds. It's going to be a tough one. Taking pole position is Alain Prost for FJR, only 9 thousandths of a second quicker than Ayrton Senna in the dark fire. 3rd and 4th are Jean Alesi and Gerhard Berger. The Shake and Bake and Gajera. Berger had a nightmare race last time out, qualified way down in 21st and finished 10th. So he's hoping for a much better race for Gajera. And Gajera look as if they're going to have a promising race in front of them, because Derek Warwick is 6th, just behind Alessandro Nannini, who took that podium place for Andrew Racing. Deservedly, I'd say. De Cesaris qualifies an impressive 7th for AJ, ahead of Nigel Mansell in 8th. And then we have got, completing the top 10, Thierry Boutsen and Riccardo Patrese for Pedersen and FJR. Those two also separated by a very slim margin, 8 thousandths of a second. They're 1.1 seconds off of the front row. Jonathan Palmer is 11th, ahead of Michele Alboreto, who took that sensational pole position at Monaco. Then we've got Maurizio Gugelmin in the other Tornado, 13th, ahead of Johnny Herbert, who did crash out last time in Monaco. In fact, he had a puncture, never mind that. Piquet qualifies way down in 15th. His race in Monaco was stylised by an early first pit stop. He qualified 12th before in Monaco and finished 4th, so that was an impressive strategy from JGR Meister. 16th on the grid is Rene Arnoux. And then rounding up the final 6 are Pierluigi Martini in the first of the unbearables, Stefano Modena in the other AJ, Martin Brundle way down in 19th. He usually goes well on street circuits, so we'll be hoping for a much better race. And then we've got Satoru Nakajima, Stefan Johansson and Eddie Cheever rounding out the 22. And I'll just do a quick view of the championship standings before we get underway, because JGR Meister lead the constructors by 2 points from Tornado. FJR sit 3rd, ahead of Darkfire. And then the other 4 teams that have scored points, we've got Willows in 5th on 7 points, Pedersen 6th on 6, Andrew Racing 7th on 4, and Gajera with the 1. Shake and Bake, AJ and Unbearable are all yet to score points. So now we await the start of what promises to be a very punishing race, 81 laps in the high heat of the Phoenix Desert. And you can see an array of sponsors in front of you. We've got Agip on the left, Foster's on the right, Iceberg in the middle. I suspect it's advertising lettuce, but who knows? It could be advertising something completely different. You can see Prost on the left and Senna on the right. And you can also see some flags waving around in the background. And we are going to get ready soon. The green light's gone off, and now the red light has gone on. And we wait for the red light to go off before the green light goes on. And it's underway for round 4 of the 1989 FF1M Championship. Prost has just about held on to lead, but Senna is side by side as we approach the first corner. 90-degree right, heavy braking zone. Prost is going to brave it out on the inside. He's got it, and the Lacey has crashed out, I think, but he's going to carry on. Just a nudge of the barrier. He's had a poor start. He's down to 7th position already. Now then we go through the next series of corners. Senna side by side with Prost to the lead. And it is Senna who has just taken the lead. Make a quick look at your hand in the back, and there's a bit of a log jam. We're approaching turn 3. They have a look at the achiever down in 20th, but he has gained a couple of positions from his starting position. It is actually Senna who leads at the moment as we approach the corners. Prost currently sits second. Nannini is up to third from 5th on the grid from the Andrew F1. Berger is 4th, so maintaining that position from the start. Derek Warwick is up to 5th, having overtaken John Lacey, and then De Cesaris up to the point in 6th. Can AJ score a point? Well, De Cesaris has got a Lacey behind him, and behind we've got Mansell and Tracy side by side. And there's massive contact between the two, and Tracy spins, and Mansell has lost a whole lot of wheels. Goodness me, that was a dramatic incident on the first lap, and I'm not expecting Tobias to be very happy about that. But that is Nigel Mansell out of the race, and Patrese trying to spin it back round, and he's doing an Austin Powers. See 3-point turns, well 7-point turns that one. He has been joined, although he has not got a front wing. And we got Jonathan Palmer out of the race as well, so he's had a crash somewhere. Where has he crashed out? In the final sequence of 90-degree corners, just about saw a wheel on the outside of the penultimate corner. So let's see. Palmer running up high in 10th position. There he is. He's about making his way through the field. That's no problem there. Behind him there is Tommy Herbert, who's having a look at the inside going into the third left corner. More contact and straight into the wall, having gone a little bit airborne, goes Jonathan Palmer. And Johnny Herbert's confirmed to be out of the race as well, so that bit of contact has done a shake a bit. Oh my goodness me, a car upside down! That is Michele Alboreto! And wow, he's being righted over. Now, what on earth has happened to Alboreto? It's side by side with Maurizio Gugelmin. He's going to have a look at Alboreto going into the first corner. So let's see what happens. Maurizio, contact between the two, just utterly shunts Alboreto out of the way. I don't think Alboreto thought that it was there. And the Tornado boss is blaming Patrese for that. And Willow's not happy about Alboreto's accident. So it's all kicking off in the first 2 laps already, as we have a look at Ayrton Senna in the lead of the race. It's Prost in second. Senna pulling out quite a bit of a gap during this lap already. It's 1.6 seconds as they cross the first sector point. Nannini sits in third with Berger, Warwick and Chesney completing the and they need to learn the forming. So the hairpin at the eastern end of the circuit is turn 5. So 8 to 9. This will be approaching 10 and 11. And then the final corner of turn 12, a multi-apex left-hander, pit lane proving very awkward. Let's see how that one works when these guys do their one-only pit stop. Senna sets the fastest lap of the race over 1 minute 29.813. Oh, is Prost got an issue? Prost has got an issue and he is going to be pulling out of the race. That looks mechanical to me. So what's happened to Prost? Find out in a bit, but he's definitely out of the race. Nannini then moves into second position, Gerhard Berger up to third, with Derek Warwick fourth, De Cesaris fifth, and Alesi now sixth. Lacey recovering from his difficult start. Coasting down the main straight, and now he's stopped. So what appears to be the diagnosis on the FJR? And it's a gearbox failure, so something to do with the drive shaft maybe? It's somewhere in the transmission anyway. So a very bad race for FJR already. There is Patrese, still without a front wing, believe it or not. So what on earth? Why isn't he not pitted? Why isn't he pitted? Go into the pits, Ricardo. We resume looking at the race leader Ayrton Senna, who is pulling out a massive gap over Nannini. And it was already 1.5 seconds as we went through the first sector point. And he's going to start lap 4. Looking a lot better for Ayrton Senna at this stage than it was in the previous couple of races, where he had yet another electrical problem that forced him into an earlier pit stop in Monaco. So that's 3 in a row for Darkfire. And we have a look at Nannini, who is 5.2 seconds behind Senna, and feeling the need to defend a little bit in Gerhard Berger, who's only half a second behind as they started their off lap. Let's see what else is going on. Warwick in 4th, so we have got both Gajieras in the top 4 at the moment, so that's looking good for their chances in the championship. They currently sit 8th on just the 1 point. That would have been courtesy of Gerhard Berger in Imola. As they run right out to the edge of the circuit, the turn 5 hairpin, into turn 6, which is a very good right-hander. One of the few good corners on this circuit. And there you can see absolutely no room on the exit. And I'm being told that Patrese does indeed have a front wing, which is a graphic glitch that is going on at the moment. Any fans of Riccardo Patrese, don't worry. We have got a front wing on that machine. We're getting a bit closer to Nannini's. We round turn 10 and 11. Of the lap, and here's the multi-apex turn 12. 180 degrees in total, but there's 3 and 4 apexes. Senna starts the 5th lap of the race, and the gap between himself and Nannini is now 7 seconds, and it's still the half a second between Nannini and Berger. They're already spaced out behind. Warwick has got 1.5 seconds between himself and his teammate in 3rd, and Warwick has got 1.7 second lead over De Cesaris, who himself has got 1.3 seconds over Alesi. Approaching the tight hairpin now of turn 5. Could pose as an overtaking opportunity, although it's more likely to be through to turn 1 and turn 8, and we've lost Alesi. Alesi has gone from the top 6, so have he crashed out, I wonder, because we've now got Maurizio Gugelmin in 6th. Confirmed as the gearbox failure for Jean Alesi, so no crash, yet another reliability problem for the Shake and Bake. 4 out of 4 for Alesi, that is desperately unlucky. Oh, my 3rd one grid as well. If we continue to look at Nannini and Berger, Nannini had that 3rd place, of course, in Monaco. Impressive result for himself and the Andrew F1, because it looks like the Renault wasn't particularly suited to the long straight of Imola. But we do have, there is Riccardo Patrese, still, as it appears, wingless. What's his lap time like? There's Senna in the lead. Now 8.2 from Nannini and Berger. Berger's having a go at Nannini going into the first corner. And Berger is going to take second. Is he? Yes, he is, but at the expense of Nannini crashing out of the race. More contact. And it's very difficult for these drivers to behave, it seems. So, once again, these drivers are finding this circuit narrow where it matters the most. I would say it's wide enough that these drivers are not behaving. Looking at the instance, it doesn't seem as if Nannini just turned in, even though Berger was already ahead. So slightly petulant driving from Nannini in that. That does move Warwick now up into third, behind his teammate Berger in second. De Cesaris is now fourth, and Gugelmin fifth, and completing the top six now, it's Thierry Boutsen. We've got the Tornado boss saying that is a death trap for overtaking. You're definitely not wrong there. We're going to be seeing a lot more incidents because 81 laps, and we're only on lap 6. So now that Berger has got a clear track in front of him, let's see what he can do about Senna. I'm suspecting not a right lot. Anyway, as we ride on board with the other Pajero, Eric Warwick, there's Nakajima in 10th position. For his first point of the season last time out in Monaco. That was a good result for him because he had that first lap accident at Imola, where it was with Warwick and his teammate Alboreto going into the toe of the hairpin. You can see that is. Now we're on board with Gerhard Berger as we look at Warwick once again. Eddie Cheever makes a very early pit stop. Is that a mechanical gremlin for the unbearable, I wonder? There's Cesaris in fourth position, having an excellent run in the AJ. He started seventh on the grid, he's now up to fourth, so he's been quick on this circuit, has Andrea. This is Rennie Arnu in 11th position, turning at tight left into the turn 5 hairpin. Nearly hitting the wall on the outside of the exit. And quick corner. Into the left quick turn 7. Scoring away a little bit of the wheel, but he's okay. Running in 11th position at the moment. There's Stefano Modena in 7th position. He's got a queue of cars behind him, and they do consist of Pierluigi Martini, what looks like Nelson Piquet, who's stayed away from chaos so far. There was Nakajima, and then Reniano in 11th position. So as we concentrate on one of the Italians in the field, 6, some of them might be out of the race already, and another one appears to be running wingless. We ride on board with Eric Warwick once again as we round turn 3 and 4. Indeed, these corners are very similar. Behind Reniano, we have got the upper pedestal of Martin Brundle. Behind Brundle, there is Stefan Johansson running in 13th position at this moment. There's Reniano in 11th position. Comparatively lonely compared to the rest of the field. He's got a fair gap to the car in front of him, which was Piquet, and a fair gap to the car behind him, which was Brundle. So there is Ayrton Senna in the lead of the race. He's extending the gap between himself and Gerhard Berger. He's half a second quicker on this particular lap as he exits the final turn 12 corner. Or Apex, like Istanbul in that respect. I wonder where Tilke got his inspiration from. Now we know. He copied the Phoenix Street Circuit. There's Gugelmin about to start another lap once he exits the final corner. And Senna was in fact 9/10 quicker on that lap. As Maurizio Gugelmin is looking to chase that man there, Andrea De Cesaris. The gap is 2.7 seconds. And it'd be interesting to see the pace comparison between the AJ and the second Tornado. And it is up to Gugelmin to score points for Tornado because Mansell had that first lap crash with Riccardo Patrese going into the turn 8, 90-degree right. I'm just going to have a quick look at that incident once again. And we see Johansson getting very close to Martin Brundle going into the first corner. Now trying the outside. And now we're back with Gerhard Berger. Yes, I'm going to have a quick look at that Mansell Patrese incident, see if I can put something neutral on it. So Mansell was trying to go around the outside of Patrese, and then, yeah, it does look as if Patrese ran him out of the road. So I think Riccardo should take responsibility for that one. So Boutsen is very, very lonely up in 6th position, but the 6th position is sixth position nonetheless for himself and the Pedersen team. Both Pedersens still in the race. And if the first 10 laps are anything to go by, then we're going to expect a very high attrition and a very, very messy race. And Senna's definitely got a measure over Berger. It's now 12.4 seconds. As we ride on board with Pierluigi Martini, who is chasing Stefano Modena for 7th position. Now we switch back to Gerhard Berger. He's a couple of tenths down in the first couple of sectors, I think. It's a short final sector. In fact, he's in the first sector. Senna's already crossed the first sector point, which is there. As we switch to Andrea de Cesaris, who still runs in 4th position for the AJ team. Sets a personal best first sector. He's half a tenth quicker than his previous personal best. As he rounds turn 5. And then 7. And switching back to Senna once again. This looks like a closer between Pierluigi Martini and Nelson Piquet. And Piquet avoided chaos to go from, where did he start? 15th, and he's up to 9th. Better job from Martini, though. He was 17th on the grid, and now he's running in 8th position. You can see the rest of the field. Johansson is he going to have a look at Brundle? There's Juba, who is 15th behind Petresi. Jiva in his home race. Where was Jiva born? Because I'm interested to see how far away he is from the actual street circuit. He's actually from a Phoenix, so this is an extreme home race for Eddie Cheever. It's not gone well for him so far because he had what appears to be a mechanical gremlin in the early stages. A bit early. It's remedied so far, and he currently sits in 15th position behind the winless Ricardo Petresi. And they can see already there's 7 retirements. They consist of Alessi Nannini, Alboreto Herbert Palmer, Mansell, and there was somebody else that run a bit too quickly for me. I'll find out in a moment. Gerhard Berger for a bit. 3 seconds between himself and Warwick, just extended a little bit. It was Prost, of course it was. He had that transmission failure at the start of the 2nd or 3rd lap. Oh, it's squirrely there. That was Martini, and PK is going to get the opportunity to get past, but I think Alboreto is going to get the chance, or is it Nakajima? He's going to get both of them. Is Satoru Nakajima? Be careful going into turn 8. And, oh, just about reading the warning as Martini actually hangs on to the position. Overall, though, Nakajima up a position. So we'll see what happens to Martini. I believe he would have made a mistake going to turn number 7. See what happens here. Trying to catch up, and he actually he was spinning it. The entire barrier from retirement. So chasing hard on Stefano Modena. And you can see in the background Brundle versus Johansson. Has something happened between Brundle and Johansson, I wonder? Maybe not. Nothing to come up on the screen as of yet. There is Nakajima. Brundle hanging on to the position ahead of Johansson so far. So Martini's now got a queue of cars behind him, and they consist of that man there, Nakajima. But Nakajima at the moment has got nothing right behind him. Although Nakajima did get a good run out the final corner. And there's René Arnoux behind PK, and behind him, the battling Brundle and Johansson. There's 4th position, Andrea de Cesaris. 3 tenths quicker on this particular lap than his previous personal best. So he's on a good one so far. As he rounds the next corner onto the back straight. I'm going to have a look at a map of Phoenix so that I can give you the names of these streets. There's Gerhard Berger, who sits in 2nd position. And there's a panoramic shot of the field, which mostly consists of Pierluigi Martini. At the moment, they've just turned into 3rd Avenue North. Now they're on West Adam Street. In fact, there's Eddie Cuba, who is going through the fast turn number 6. He's going to turn left onto East and West Washington Street. See chase is Riccardo Patrese, who has got a front wing now. So they've managed to morph a front wing onto his car, almost transform style. There's Ayrton Senna going onto East Washington Street. And there's Stefano Modena, who is going through the first corner onto North 1st Street. South 1st Street now. Now onto East Jackson Street before turns 3 and 4. And going round onto Small Straight before turn 5, leading back onto East Jefferson Street. So Berger pulling away from Derek Warwick. Gap is now 5.7 seconds. Here's Victoria Nakajima going through the corner. And the left corner back into East Washington Street. And now on to the back straight, the Japanese driver. With Nelson Piquet close behind him. I think Martini is catching up to Modena as well. We could see about the 7th position coming up shortly. This is like 14 and Ayrton Senna holds gap to himself and Gerhard Berger, nearly 14 seconds now. Right on board with the FPR of Riccardo Patrese, who was involved in that incident with Nigel Mansell. On the first lap, it resulted in Mansell losing 2 wheels, Patrese leaving a new front wing. So I wonder how different the lap times are between Patrese, Cheever and Senna, because Patrese and Cheever did make unscheduled pit stops, whereas Ayrton Senna is still pulling away from the lead. There is De Cesaris, I believe, no, it is Modena. Stefano Modena, Martini trotting up to him. This has been where the attention has been so far. To Warwick, slightly quicker than Berger in the 2nd sector. We'll look at Rumble now. With Stefan Johansson all over his back. Through 5 and 6 they go. Johansson going to get a good one coming out of here. Not bad, but I don't think it'll be enough to try and outbreak the Tennessee rider. Then you can turn it in between. Here's Patrese once again. Patrese for a little bit, as he's got Eddie Cheever behind him. So his lap time is approaching the 2nd sector point. How's he doing on this lap? Nearly a second down from his personal best, so he's not lapping particularly quickly at the moment. Switching to Berger, who is 0.3 of a second quicker than Warwick on this lap so far. And he's up on his own personal best. You can see it's green on the top right. He's about 300ths quicker. Battling Brundle and Johansson. It doesn't look quick. It doesn't look like it's closer at this lap at the moment. We're only going through the 1st sector. How far back is Patrese compared to Johansson, I wonder? And Brundle setting a personal best speed trap through the 1st sector as Martini continues to try and chase Modena. They're edging out the gap between themselves and Nakajima, who has got his mirrors full of the yellow JGR Meister of Nelson Piquet. And Brundle defending slightly from Johansson, feeling the need to. And I think De Cesaris is being caught by Maurizio Gugelmin a little bit. As we switch back to Patrese once again. So Johansson's already crossed the second sector at this point. Before we even got into turn 7, the gap between Patrese and Johansson is some 21 seconds. So Patrese has got a bit of a mountain to climb if he's going to recover into the points. He's finished all 3 races in 5th place so far. And how to do it on this occasion. There's Stefano Modena, who is 12.2 seconds behind Thierry Boutsen, 1.3 ahead of Martini. So the gap between those two remaining fairly static. I think Nakajima's pulling away slightly from PK. First 3 retirements, all British. Ansel, Herbert and Palmer. And Hedi Chiva dropped back slightly from Patrese on the last lap. It's now 1.7 seconds. And a lot of understeer for Chiva at the moment, so maybe he's cooked the tyres and he's dropped back to give him a bit of a breather. Missing the apex completely. And Chiva's first sector was 4 tenths slower than Ayrton Senna's. This is on personal best. There's Martini, 8th position. And in turns 10 and 11. And PK looking to try and close in on Nakajima once again. Responsibility for that one. And he's up to 9th. Better job from Martini though, he was 17th on the grid and now he's running in 8th position. To cross the line to start another lap, that was Martini. Now we switch to Ayrton Senna and then Riccardo Patrese. Patrese's personal best is a 1 minute 30.9. Patrese. So let's bear that in mind as we cut to the panoramic shots briefly. Because I'm interested to see how far away he is from. And he starts his 17th lap in 14th position. So this is 20.4 seconds behind Johansson, so he is closing on the Swede. What appears to be a mechanical Grenberg's personal best was a 1 minute 30.5. And Gugelmin versus De Cesaris, a bit of contact, and Gugelmin running the wall of death on the outside. So now we've got a battle for 4th position, and it's between Andrea De Cesaris and Mauricio Gugelmin. 2 blue cars, one of them is cyan, and the other one is a more cornflower blue. For me. So this is going to get a bit interesting now as we approach. This will be their 18th lap. There's Derek Warwick in 3rd position. He's got a comfortable buffer between the battling duo. Here's Stefano Modena going through the final sector. And he's got 1.2 seconds over Martini, but he is not as quick as Thierry Boutsen in front of him. Oh, it's squirrely there, that was Martini, and PK is going to get the opportunity to get past, but I think Alvaretto is going to get the chance to Nakajima. And that's why De Cesaris has crashed! Has there been contact between himself and Gugelmin going into the first corner, I wonder? We might see a replay of that soon. There goes Modena up into a point scoring position. Not as quick as Thierry Boutsen in front of him. Oh, it's squirrely there. That was we'll get a replay of this. Is going to get the opportunity to get past, but and that's why De Cesaris has crashed. Confirmation of De Cesaris out of the race, missing a wheel, so he's definitely had a whack of the barrier. But was he assisted by Mauricio Gugelmin, I wonder? And oh, goodness me, Brundle has lost his front right against the wall. That was at the exit of turn 5, a hairpin. So now we're seeing a few more retirements. And we still haven't seen a replay of the De Cesaris incident. It's starting to kick off slightly now, as Brundle gets craned away by the invisible crane. No such problems for Ayrton Senna so far. He's got 16 seconds over Gerhard Berger as he rounds that tricky turn 5. He's a tenth or so quicker than Berger on this lap so far, 6 tenths down on his personal best, and 273 kilometres an hour on the first sector point. And Senna's basically got a minute over René Arnoux, but well over 50 seconds ahead of 6th place Modernist. So that's how quick Senna has been in this race so far. 13 runners, and we're not even at 1/4 distance. Already been 9 retirements. This is going to be a race of attrition, no doubt about that. So Senna starts lap 20. Let's see what the top speed is as we switch back to Modena. And still no replay of the De Cesaris incident so far. But we look at his teammate, who sits in 6th position ahead of Pierluigi Martini. And it should be Nakajima. There he is in 8th position. .5 seconds the lead between Senna and Berger. Let's see what it is across the first sector. There's PK 9th. René Arnoux is 10th. And behind Arnoux, it should be Stefan Johansson now in 11th position. And in the recovering Patrese and Chiva. So just rewinding, I believe we are looking for the De Cesaris incident now. Happened a few laps ago. Certainly the tornado will be interested to see if there was indeed a collision between Gugelmin and De Cesaris. There was De Cesaris, and just saw Gugelmin, who was having a look at the inside. So here we go. De Cesaris moving across on Gugelmin, going into the first corner. Gugelmin trying to outbrake him, and then wow! That was a big flip. And then De Cesaris is going to walk back onto the racetrack. Oh, well. The De Cesaris probably should have seen Gugelmin coming. And I wonder if Gugelmin tried to back out of the incident, but it was too late because Andrea doesn't believe in rear-view mirrors. Certainly a big flip. Yeah, De Cesaris should have seen Gugelmin on the inside. That's my summation of that. As we get back to the race action, there is Satoru Nakajima. And his teammate was upside down as well. So in this race, we've seen 2 cars upside down at some point. Wait all day and 2 come all at once. Playing the wall of death around the outside of turn 5. As we revert back to the battle against, this is now for the final point. Modena's got a bit of a buffer now over Martini. It's 1.2 seconds, and Martini himself has got 1.4 over Satoru Nakajima. And Tornado is saying that really thinks Maurizio is careful, and well, at least he's still in the race in 4th position. And who knows, if the race goes on as it is, Gugelmin could win this. On board with Nakajima, sitting in 8th position, underneath the Honda bridge, and about to brake hard for turn 5. There's Gerhard Berger in 2nd position, a much better race for Gajera than his season so far, as only scored 1 point. That was by Berger at Imola, and if the race stays as it is, they're going to increase that by 100 and, well, a lot of percent 100%, that would be 2 points. So if it goes up to 11, that'd increase it by 1,100%. Big points haul. Here's Prix, going through 6 and 7. Some big tall buildings on the outside. And what's the gap between Prix and Johansson now as we cross the second sector point? 18.7 seconds. So Ricciardo is definitely closing in on Johansson, but not particularly quickly. His tyres are only 1 lap younger than Johansson's, and indeed most of the field. Aside from this one here, Eddie Cheever, slightly bumpy under braking for turn number 10, now through 11. A whole bunch of traffic lights to watch out for. Better be careful that the turbulence from the cars doesn't cause one of the lights to fall down. As Cheever is about to start another lap, currently lapping in 1 minute 32.6. And his personal best was a 1 minute 30.8, similar to Warwick's personal best lap of 1 minute 30.7. So I think Cheever's being held up a little bit, and Nakajima and Piquet getting a bit closer together, as there's Modena going through 6 and then 7. Now it's Piquet going to be the one to have a look at Nakajima on this back straight. I don't think he's close enough, but Nakajima wiggling a little bit. Piquet starting to get a little bit impatient. No contact. Has Senna got an issue? He's going very, very slowly. That is really slow. And where is he? He's still in the first sector. Senna is out of the race. My goodness me, another mechanical problem for Darkfire. What is it this time? It's transmission. So now Gerhard Berger, there he goes, is in the lead. And it's going to be a Gajira at 1-2. Now this is a dramatic development, as you'd hear Murray Walker saying. Wow. So there's the new race leader, Gerhard Berger. And Gerhard Berger won the first ever FF1M race, back when it was drove for A Racing, and won that from Mika Hakkinen and Johnny Herbert, I believe. And that was actually Berger's only FF1M win in the old school Masters era. And A Racing's only win as well. So now that moves Houston into third position, Houston now to fourth, Modena fifth, and Martini now to sixth. And that is them just passing the stricken Senna as they round turn 5. Nakajima edging it out slightly over Piquet. And he's going to go through turn 7. Piquet got a very good run coming out of 7 on the back straight, but I don't think it's close enough to have a go here. There's Modena in 5th position for the AJ team, Martini, and then Nakajima and Piquet. And there's Nanu, and then there's Johansson. So Modena holding up the field somewhat. So it's going to be interesting to see who finishes 5th in the end, as there is Derek Warwick. Currently sitting in 2nd position for Gajira, 11.4 as they started this lap. Now it is down to 11 point, up to 11.6 as we switch to Ricciardo Tracy. And he's got a bit of fuel on board, so if they did add a bit of fuel when Tracy made that unscheduled stop, I suspect the G's got a little bit more fuel as well. As Tracy starts his 24th lap, he's lapping 1 minute 32.1. And oh, Martini! That was very, very close. He actually did hit the wall, but luckily no damage done. So a scary moment for the unbearable as he rounds turn 5. And again playing the wall of death on the outside. As he chases Stefano Modena for 5th position. And points will be very useful for the Unbearable and the AJ team, as they have yet to score points, as have Shake and Bake, but no chance for Shake and Bake to score points in this race, as both Lacey and Herbert are out. Herbert crashed out after a collision with Jonathan Palmer, going into this very corner here, turn 10, and Alesi, the luckless Alesi, had a mechanical problem. If Alesi didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck. Here's Prix once again. He's only a quarter of a second down on his personal best on this lap so far. So I suspect he's going to catch up a little bit to Johansson on this lap. As he approaches the final corner. And Tornado noticing that Gugelmin has been lapping a little bit quicker than Warwick in the last few laps. The gap is 7.2 seconds at the moment between Gugelmin and Warwick. We'll see what it is when they start lap 26. Berger holds a 12-second lead over Warwick. As we continue to look at Pierluigi Martini, who I think is being caught up a little bit now by Satoru Nakajima. It's just 0.6 of a second as they cross the first sector. Berger starts lap 26. See what the gap is between himself and Derek Warwick. It was 12 seconds and it is now 12.3. So Berger lapping 0.3 of a second quicker than Warwick on the previous lap. And at this point he doesn't really need to push because Gugelmin 7.4, just 0.2 of a second slower on that particular lap. So the gap is ebbing and flowing between Gugelmin and Warwick. Nakajima getting a little bit closer to Martini now, as they're about to start their 26th lap. And they're not lapping particularly quickly. Let's see what it is as they cross the start-finish line now. 1 minute 32, I suspect. 32.4. So you wonder where the next overtake is going to come from, because it's been very difficult to overtake around here because drivers are not really using their rear view mirrors. At the moment, you have to say that it looks like it's going to come from the Nakajima sandwich. Here's Berger about to exit the final corner, and he's about to start his 27th lap. Let's see what laps he's lapping at. Well, we'll switch back to Martini, so we don't get to see Berger's quick lap. But he is the fastest driver out on the circuit at this very moment. I suspect it is Ayrton Senna who holds the fastest lap of the race so far. It's probably in the low 1 minute 30s, maybe high 1:29s. Martini's on a quicker lap this time. He was only 4/10 down on his personal best and slightly pulling away from Nakajima. Berger getting very, very close to the wall. If Guillaume Kramer's watching this, he'll have just had a kitten. And he doesn't really be wanting to have kittens at this moment. Gugelmin was 7/10 quicker than Warwick on that previous lap. It's now 6.5 seconds. On board with the Brazilian as he crosses the first sector point. 31.5 first sector. It's a quarter of a second down on his personal best at the moment. And the Tornado boss saying that it is now Berger's to lose. And I would definitely agree with that. Holds a very comfortable lead. And is that Nakajima coming under pressure from Piquet, or just a strange line coming out of the second corner? I suspect it is the latter, as he is still a little bit ahead of Piquet. It was 7/10 of a second as we started this lap. Back to Berger, back to Arnoux. The director doesn't know where to look. And I mean that in a nice way. We are now at 1/3 distance. 81 divided by 3 is 27, so indeed we are at 1/3 distance. As crossing turn 7 back onto, this will be East and then West Washington Street. There's Piquet in 8th position. There's Nakajima in front of him. A fair gap, 1.1 seconds as they cross the second sector point. And Piquet has got a similar gap between himself and René Arnoux. Here's Berger, 14.5 seconds now ahead of Warwick, but it's 15 as they cross the first sector point. There's Riccardo Patrese, and behind him Eddie Cheever. The gap between Patrese and Johansson remaining constant at 18.3 seconds. I suspect some of that would be down to the presence of Eddie Cheever, the local boy, right behind Riccardo. So crossing the line to start lap 28 is Riccardo Patrese. Late 1 minute 31 that time, 1 minute 31.7. Is Modena, and he's got a fairly comfortable 1.5 second gap to himself and Martini. It's going to be down to the pit stops, and I'll be interested to see who does pit first. And then, oh, that's Martini, he's hit the wall. Martini has crashed out in the same place as where Martin Brundle did. Exit of turn 5. So that's another retirement, and I think that's half of them gone. Let's see, nothing unusual, but just clicks the wall on the outside, and that is unfortunate for the unbearable. So now that moves Satoru Nakajima up into 6th position, PK up to 7th, and then Reni Arnaud up to 8th, Johansson 9th, Patrese and Cheever 10th and 11th, and that's it. So we are now not even nowhere near half distance, and we've lost half the runners. So it is a race of punishment, and we're seeing that right in front of you. So Gugelmin 6.6 seconds behind Warwick as they started this lap. Let's see what the gap is as they come through the first sector point. Gugelmin's PBs are 31.2, and Warwick had just crossed the first sector point, and it's still 6.6, so they're lapping a very similar pace at the moment. There's Modena in 5th. Pulling away now, he's got a 3-second buffer between himself and Nakajima. So that incident between Martini and the wall has definitely benefited Modena. And looking quite good for his AJ's first points of the season. Teammate Cesaris out of the race. I wonder who of the 11 cars has still got 2 runners. Definitely not Darkfire and Shake and Bake. And Patrese, the lone FJR in the race. Cheever, the lone Unbearable in the race. Nakajima, the lone Willows. Modena, the lone AJ. Boots and the lone Pedersen. Gugelmin, the lone Tornado. Reni Arnaud, the lone Andrew F1. Both Gajeras and both JGR Meisters still in the race. Patrese getting some oversteer on traction at the exit of that corner. It's now showing Arnaud as the next runner in front of him, so at some point Johansson has overtaken Arnaud. So Johansson is the one who is making an overtaking manoeuvre and making it stick cleanly, because Arnaud is still showing 17 seconds ahead of Patrese and still running. There's Eddie Cheever, who is 11th and last. Started last on the grid. He's divided his grid slot by 2. Now sits in 11th, right behind Patrese. And Nakajima's taken a second out of Modena over the last lap or so, probably the last couple of laps. So there may well be a battle for 5th position yet, and Modena's going to have to do some work. Who is going to be the first out of this traffic to blink? Because whoever will be the first one to blink is going to have a big advantage on the new tyres. And it may well be the battle for 5th. Trace is definitely not going to be the one who pits first, because he's got a little bit more fuel in the tank. Yeah, Berger's got quite a lot of fuel in the tank. Certainly 7 laps more than the Willows of Nakajima, as is Bootson. Bootson very, very lonely on 4th. Pedersen have had 2 4th places already, nearly had a 3rd one, but Brundle did crash out at the swimming pool on the either the penultimate or the final lap. I will double check that. It must have been the penultimate lap, because he was showing us 2 laps down on eventual race winner Nigel Mansell. There's Arnaud behind Johansson. And there's Stefano Modena in 5th position. 20 seconds behind Thierry Boutsen. And he was 2 tenths quicker than Nakajima on that lap. So Modena responding to the challenge of Satoru Nakajima. Bootson is out. He's had some sort of transmission failure. That was on the back straight. So now let's move Stefano Modena up into 4th position. Nakajima 5th and PK 6th. As we look at very interesting shot of Nakajima, it's like a chase camera. Wonder what on earth that's suspended by. And Gugelmin's on a quick lap. He's slightly down on his personal best, less than a 10th. So he's going to make a bit of a charge on Derek Warwick. And Johansson's closing in on Nelson Piquet, so I wonder if the two JGRs are going to go into combat with each other. And with Bootson's retirement, only 10 runners on the circuit. And we've still got 50 or so laps to go. Here's Rene Arnoux, who is now in 8th position. And where did Arnoux finish last time? He didn't. It was a suspension failure, I believe, into Mirabeau. And Arnoux started 16th on the grid. So he's done well to steer clear of the chaos, as have the two JGRs, because Piquet and Johansson were 15th and 21st on the grid. And now Piquet's in the points, Johansson's right behind him. So it's been a good race for JGR so far. There's still a long, long way to go. 49 or so laps. There's race leader Gerhard Berger, and there's second place Derek Warwick. The gap is just gone up quite a bit on that last lap, 16.8 seconds. Gugelmin is now only 5.5 seconds behind Warwick. So now Gugelmin is on the move. In a very competitive tornado, it seems. And the two JGRs, their boss Laura Chung has just gone on the radio to them and saying, if you two crash, we're going to have words. And Johansson has heeded some sort of warning. In fact, Johansson, is that ahead of PK? No, it is not. A bit hard to tell from the distance, but it's going to be PK closing in on Nakajima for 5th position. Now is PK going to do something about the Japanese driver on the back straight? He's fairly close. And Berger another second quicker than Warwick, so Warwick's struggling now. And the gap between Warwick and Gugelmin less than 4 seconds, 3.8. There's Nakajima and PK. And Johansson and Arnoux coming through the final 3 corners. And there's Berger once again. And he was already 7/10 quicker than Warwick on this lap alone. And he's on a quick one. He's only 1,000th slower than his personal best. There's 4th placed Modena. Driving very well for the AJ. Although he's nearly a minute behind Berger, he's in 4th position. That just shows you how high the attrition has been. Just 10 runners left. And still, and now it's the two JGRs that are quite close together, so I wonder if PK is nursing the tyres a little bit before his first pit stop. We are approaching the first and only pit stop window. I wonder who's going to be the first to pit. Berger starts lap 35, 18.6 seconds, the gap now between himself and Warwick. And once again, the gap going down between Gugelmin and Warwick is now 3.2 seconds. As Gugelmin brakes hard for the first corner. There's Warwick going into the second corner, and about 3 seconds later, Gugelmin will do the same. Here's PK. Now, is he going to try and get back onto Nakajima's gearbox? He's got Johansson just half a second behind him. PK's on, looks to be on a quicker lap this time around. See rounds the multi-apex Istanbul style final corner. Tilke definitely copied this circuit. 1 minute 31.8 on that lap for PK. And was about 4/10 quicker than Nakajima in the final sector. But Nakajima now is closing in on Modena. We're on board with the driver himself, Stefano Modena. Probably not named after the Italian city of Modena, although he was born there. Born in Modena, Italy, interestingly enough. According to Wikipedia, so that might not be a reliable bit of information. Is Nakajima in 5th position? 2 JGRs, and then the Andrew Racing. So it's a 5-way battle for 4th position at the moment. And it looks like the pit stops could decide that. Berger another 7/10 quicker than Warwick on that lap. And the gap between Warwick and Gugelmin 2.6 seconds. So once again, Gugelmin quicker on this particular lap. Back on board with Nakajima and is definitely closing in on Modena as he rounds the final corner. A, what's this lap time? And B, what is the gap? 7/10 is the gap, and the lap times are 1:32.2. So Modena lapping probably somewhere in the mid-32s. And was that a slight lock-up that I saw from the AJ? It might well have been. Steering clear from the wall at the exit of turn 2. Now through 3 and 4. Yeah, he's giving the wall a little bit more respect than some of the others. Here's Warwick, and now back to PK. Now rounding the fast section, yet to see somebody crash at that particular corner, turn 6. Now Nakajima's really close now to the back of Modena. Is he going to have a go up the inside? Modena's trying to defend. Here comes Nakajima up the inside as we switch to Riccardo Patrese for some reason. And I think Nakajima has just taken the position. No, he hasn't. He's dropping back down the order. Has Nakajima crashed into the wall, I wonder? I'd really love to see this. And I think PK's moved up past Modena as well, so I think both drivers have suffered in that particular moment. And that's Nakajima out. We've missed this. We're going to get a replay of that at some point soon. And I can see bits of AJ scattered around the circuit. So I think Modena is going to have to make an early pit stop. And we're going to see a replay of this now at some point soon. Confirmation of Nakajima out. I think Modena will continue. And there's no rear wing on the back of the Willows. Here we go. Nakajima looking at one side. Modena choosing the middle. And Nakajima up the inside there. And, well, Nakajima just drove straight into the wall, it looked like. I don't think there was contact. So I think adhesion, I'm trying to look for an appropriate phrase, but getting a little bit too optimistic, I reckon, from Nakajima's side. Now, what sort of fuel load is Modena going to take? 48, and with 44 laps to go, he's bringing his pit stop forward. So Modena using this opportunity to get motoring on his second stint. You'll have to look after the tyres a little bit. And that was a Gajera lapping him, I think it was Berger. So now Modena is a lap behind Gerhard Berger. So 9th position, so he's still got a chance of some points. It could have been 4th, and now that is currently being occupied by Nelson Piquet. Piquet and Johansson are now 4th and 5th, so both JGRs now in the points. That'll please Laura Chubb. And Renier New is now in 6th position, and it must be Riccardo Patrese in 7th, with Eddie Cheever in 8th. So now they're on the brink of points despite early first pit stops. It's 20.7 seconds, the gap between Berger and Warwick. And Warwick is now only 1.6 seconds ahead of Maurizio Gugelmin. So this is a difference in engine power because Gujeras are running the Honda engines and the Tornado, well, they're still running Honda, but the Tornado is just a quicker car around this circuit. Well, Gugelmin quicker than Warwick anyway. Berger is a pretty good driver. And Tornado looking at the pit strategy now between Gugelmin and Warwick. Saying that he hopes Gugelmin will pit first, as he doesn't fancy risking an overtake on a track which is proving very difficult to overtake on cleanly. Johansson has managed it, so it is possible. Drivers need to learn from the Swede, I reckon. So Johansson has got slightly more fuel than Gugelmin, so he will be stopping a little bit later than the Brazilian. Probably 2 laps later, I reckon. Maybe 3. I suspect it'll be 2, actually. I wonder what load Warwick is running. So there is Gugelmin, who's probably going to be due into the pits within the next couple of laps. And right in front of him, 1.3 seconds, the gap between himself and Warwick. Who has been struggling with his tyres on this stint. There's Modena, going through turns 8 and 9. And he's not on a stellar lap at the moment. About 7 or so tenths down on the second sector point. Now that Piquet has got some clear track in front of him in 4th position, he's opened the gap between himself and Johansson to 3 seconds. And Piquet and Johansson, I think they'll be pitting one after the other. I think Piquet might be pitting first. And that will definitely benefit his race and his championship challenge, because he wouldn't want Johansson in front of him. Behind these two are Rennie Arnoux, and the gap opening up between Johansson and Arnoux as well. As we go back to Gerhard Berger, now 21.6 seconds ahead of Derek Warwick. There's Modena, going through the first sector. And 2 tenths down on his personal best in the first sector, so he's not lapping particularly quickly on a heavy fuel load and new tyres. So I wonder how this will work out between the field. So here is Warwick. Fuel load running fairly low. Not pitting on this lap, so I reckon it'll be on the next lap when Warwick will come into the pits. So that'll be bad news for Tornado if they pit on the same lap. If there is a lap difference between these two, then it might still work out in Gugelmin's favour. If he pits first, then he can use new tyres to overtake Warwick. If he pits later, then he'll have the advantage of fresh tyres. That's the theory. Practice will be in the pit stop itself. Berger, by the way, has got a much heavier load than Warwick, about 6 or 7 laps difference. And Eddie Cheever has got 3 more laps than Berger. So Cheever will be the latest one to pit. Remember, it'll be Cheever's second stop because he had to pit early for a mechanical drama. As Berger crosses the line to start lap 41, officially half distance. There's still 40 laps to go, and there's only 9 runners. Could be one of those races where all drivers running at the end will get points. One of them could be this driver, Stefano Modena. I would say unlikely after that spectacular collision with Nakajima, and we've seen a few spectacular collisions in this race. Or technically, Nakajima crashed out on his own, with Modena the unfortunate victim of having his view blocked by the Willows. So both Willows out of the race. We've got both Gujeras still in the race, both JGR Meisters still in the race. 1 Tornado, 1 Andrew F1, 1 FJR, 1 Unbearable, and 1 AJ left in the race. So PK crossing the line, he has opened the gap between himself and Johansson to 4 seconds, 3.9 to be pedantic. And then Anu is 2.5 seconds behind Johansson. Here's Modena once again. It's about 11 seconds, the gap between himself and Eddie Cheever. Let's see what the gap is as he crosses the line to start another lap. 12 seconds, so Modena not lapping especially quickly in this phase of the race. He'll be ahead of Patrese and Cheever once they make their pit stops. Here's PK, and he's currently green on his personal best, so he's on a good lap as he goes through turn 7. Back onto East Washington Street. He'll be doing a crossover and onto West Washington Street. There it is. Grandstand on the right, and PK still green on this lap. Only half a tenth though, but it's green nonetheless. Here's Gugelmin, 1.3 seconds behind Warwick still, so he's just pegging the gap a little bit, just pacing himself, waiting for the pit stop phase. I think he knows that there's still 40 or so laps to go. So that's a good move from Gugelmin, I reckon. Worth pointing out that Modena is a lap down on Gerhard Berger. Berger has still to make a pit stop, but he'll be doing it fairly late. PK going through the first corner, so he lost 0.6 of a second on that lap to Johansson. So now Johansson is the quick one out of the group of 3. Between PK, Johansson and Anu. So crossing the first sector point. Well, there's Rennie Anu about to do that very thing. And what sort of, he's a quarter of a second up on this lap, so he's getting a bit of a push on now. As he tries to close up to Johansson. Warwick and Gugelmin now separated by just 0.6 of a second. I think we should switch to that little bit of action. Well, there's Riccardo Patrese, not on a personal best, but he is 8.5 seconds now behind Rennie Anu. So I wonder if Anu's just responding to a potential threat from Riccardo Patrese. He's crossing his second sector point. Well, he's not too bad, actually, is Riccardo. Still 8.2 off of Anu, but a tenth quicker. There's Warwick and there's Gugelmin. It's getting closer now. Warwick is due in the pits this lap. So let's see what happens between these two drivers, if Gugelmin will follow suit or whether he'll continue for another lap. Onto the back straight, East Washington Street. Past traffic lights onto West Washington Street before turning right. Switching to PK. And then Johansson. And then Anu. I would like to see Warwick making a pit stop. Berger starts lap 44. He'll be going a good chunk longer than his teammate. So there's Gugelmin moving up into second position because, as we're about to see on the screen, Derek Warwick is in the pits. So we'll see how quick the Gajera pit crew are on this occasion. And it's being covered off camera. There he goes, 11.1 seconds. That's a long pit stop for Warwick. So now Gugelmin can get a bit of a spurt on in some clear track. So he's definitely gone at least 1 lap longer than the Gajera driver. And out of the pits. Now let's see what the pit stop time loss is. We'll find out as Warwick goes through the first sector, which will be occurring after these next couple of corners. Definitely going to be in more than 25 seconds or so. Well, just looking at Berger, I think we're looking at for Gugelmin at that point. Berger's probably going to go another 5 laps compared to Warwick. As he starts lap 45, Gerhard Berger. Now, is Gugelmin going to pick this lap, or is he going to continue for another lap? We'll be finding out soon, as Berger is about to lap Cheever and Patrese, and that's for 8th and 7th position. Gugelmin in the pits, so he went one lap longer than Warwick. We'll like to switch to Gugelmin, and we'll cover his pit stop. Berger is 3/10 quicker on his personal best on this particular lap, so he's on a quick one, and it needs to be if Warwick has just made a pit stop. I'd like to see Gugelmin, please, as we go through turn 7 with Gerhard Berger. There's Patrese, and there's Cheever behind him. Warwick has jumped Gugelmin, I think. The pit stop time loss is about 30 seconds. So it's not worked out as well for Gugelmin as Tornado will have hoped, because Warwick is back up to 2nd. So Berger is still on a quick lap, as he is going to continue around for probably at least another 3 or 4 laps now. So Arnoux making a pit stop, that'll move Patrese up into 6th position, and after the first lap where he ran Mansell out of road, that's fairly impressive from Ricciardo. And Berger was in fact 600ths down on his personal best at the end of that lap, so still a quick lap nonetheless in the mid 1-minute 30s. And it needs to be, because Warwick is, I think it was about 52 seconds behind on the last lap. Let's see what it is as he crosses the line. Back in 2nd position now. Waiting quite a while because, of course, Warwick and Gugelmin have made pit stops. Remember, it was 52 as Berger exits turn 7. It is now still 52.6 seconds. So Berger has got the measure of Warwick. And Berger's on another quick lap as well. He's green as he went past the 2nd sector point. We've got Piquet and Johansson swapping positions because Nelson Piquet is making a pit stop. That was from 4th position. There he is in the pits, taking on the fuel 9.1 seconds. That stop. Piquet will go a lap down, but Berger still has to make a pit stop. Unusual pit exit, it must be said. So that'll briefly move Patrese up into 5th position with Cheever 6th. And Johansson got out, Piquet ahead of Modena. So that long pit stop to replace the front wing definitely cost Modena dearly. But Modena may still get a point out of all this. It just depends on what Patrese, Cheever and Arnoux can do. In fact, Modena is ahead of Arnoux. So Modena 8th and Arnoux in 9th. Once Patrese and Cheever make their pit stops, as does Johansson, it probably should be Piquet in 4th. Modena could well be 5th, but Johansson could take that position away from Stefano. So Modena does still have a chance at finishing 6th, because he did rejoin ahead of Arnoux. Cheever's 10.2 seconds ahead of Piquet, which will mean that Patrese is just a couple of seconds further up from Cheever. Johansson in the pits this lap. So let's see what the Swede can do on his pit stop as Piquet rounds the final couple of corners. That's one of them. And here comes the next as Patrese also makes a pit stop. So that briefly moves Cheever up into 4th position in his home race. And Piquet ahead of Johansson. There goes Johansson exiting the pits. And Patrese, it's going to be close between Patrese, Arnoux and Modena, but I think Modena will take that one. Once Cheever makes a pit stop, then it should be Piquet, Johansson and Modena. Then it might be Arnoux, then it might be Patrese, and then it might be Cheever. Who knows, Cheever's going a little bit longer than the group that now sits behind him, which will eventually be the group in front of him. It's lap 48, Berger still hasn't made his first and only pit stop, and he's still pegging a gap of around 52 seconds. It's now 55 seconds. Warwick not comfortable in his car, and he's got Gugelmin just half a second behind. So there's going to be some action yet between Warwick and Gugelmin for second position. Right on cue, there is Gugelmin in third position. And let's see what he can do about the Gajera in front of him. Number 26, that is a good number. And let's see what he can do. He won't do out into the turn 5 hairpin. There's a lot of gravel on the inside. No such problems there, unlike Martini and Brundle. And then rounding turn 7. I think Warwick has got the measure of Gugelmin on this lap so far. It's 7 tenths the gap. So went through the first sector. It's now 8 tenths as they go through the second sector. The turbulence appears to be a bit of an issue for these drivers, because as soon as they get close, they just lose front-end grip. Oh, it's getting a bit sideways there from Warwick. If not careful, they might be lapped by the entire field. As in, Berger might lap the entire field. So across the line goes Warwick and Gugelmin, the battle for second position. 8 tenths is the gap between those two, and interestingly enough, Warwick was quicker than Berger on that lap. No sign yet of Berger coming into the pits, but it might well be soon. Cheever is about to cross the line, either that or he's going to make a pit stop, which will be his second of the race. One minute 29 behind race leader Berger. Continues for another lap, and Cheever must be due in the pits soon. Gugelmin not close enough to Warwick on this occasion. I don't think he's going to make an overtake in the next few laps. I think that's just the way Warwick's car is set up. It's quite tail-happy going into some of these corners. So there's probably a little bit too much rotation going on the Gajera. Anyway, rounding the final corner goes Warwick and Gugelmin. And Warwick losing a little bit of time compared to Berger on that lap. Not much, only 2 tenths, but still a time loss nonetheless. Cheever nearly being lapped by Berger at this point. And one of them is going to make a pit stop soon, and then the other one will be following suit shortly. Or maybe they'll pit on the same lap, who knows? We'll find out soon, as we're about to start lap 51. These two nowhere near that yet, as they're just exiting the first sector. Gerhard Berger comes into the pits for his only pit stop. And he should maintain around 25 seconds over Warwick once this pit stop is done. So very briefly, Cheever will unlap himself. And that's good news for the American, who will be going a little bit later than some of the other runners, compared to PK, Johansson, Arnu, Tracy and Modena, especially Modena. Gugelmin looking a little bit closer on this lap. I think it was just 2 tenths per second as they crossed the second sector point. So now Warwick feeling the pressure. Gugelmin getting a bit of a spurt on. And there's a possibility now going into the first corner. I think Gugelmin just lost a little bit of traction coming out of the final corner. And that was the result. Gugelmin wasn't close enough in the end. To the slight relief of the Tornado boss, although he'd rather be Gugelmin be ahead of Warwick at this stage. So just one more runner to make their stop for fuel, and that is Eddie Cheever. And he pitted early because of an issue, an unknown issue at this point. Tends to be either brakes or electrical. I know Darkfire have had quite a lot of electrical faults this season already. Did 3 in a row before this race, and except this retirement for Ayrton Senna, it was something to do with the transmission. And Gugelmin looking a lot closer this time. He's going to have a look going into, and there's contact between the two. Big contact between the two, and he's crashed into Warwick. Derek Warwick out of the race, and I think Gugelmin is going to get away with it. No damage, but wow. Now that is a very controversial incident, one of many in this race. But the net result is that Mauricio Gugelmin is now up into 2nd position. And I'm going to have a look on the old footage. Warwick did move over a little bit under braking, and that put Gugelmin into the air, locked his rear brakes. So a lot more 50-50 compared to some of the incidents we've seen in this race. Good news for Tornado, Gugelmin is still in this race, and he's now up to 2nd position, 38 seconds now behind Gerhard Berger. Cheever will briefly move into 3rd position, but remember he does have a pit stop to make. So PK now sits in the net 3rd position. Johansson will move up into 4th. And who will be 6th at the end of this? It should be, well, it's Modena who moves into 6th at the moment. And now Cheever pits. So that will move PK up into 3rd position. We'll get confirmation of that shortly. Patrese did rejoin ahead of Arnoux, interestingly. So Patrese could still be on for some points, unbelievably. As there is Cheever's pit stop. He'll be on some pretty fresh tyres. Whoa, goodness me, that was a very close manoeuvre between, that was Modena and the race leader Berger. So Cheever rejoins behind Patrese, and that will be for 6th position, right in front of Arnoux. 7th for Cheever, sorry. Patrese up into 6th. Oof, that was a frightening moment for Gerhard Berger as he's trying to lap the traffic. And Cheever versus Arnoux going into turn 3. There's a lock-up from someone, and it's Patrese! Patrese has crashed out. So that looked like a driving error from the FJR driver, and that's a chance of points gone. So we are now down to 7, and they consist of Berger, Gugelmin, PK Johansson, Modena, Cheever, and Arnoux. So we're going to see some replays. That's of Cheever. And there's the stricken Patrese. So let's see what happens. Berger is lapping Modena. All looking fine so far. Between, you can see Arnoux and well, that was just, I'm not sure what Patrese was doing there. I think he locked up, it was very suddenly that. Almost as if a brake failed. It came up as accidents, but the car suddenly speared to the left under braking for that turn 5, that turn 3. And yeah, that was a very strange accident for Patrese. So a relieved Gerhard Berger, after a near 3-wide moment between himself, Modena, and the departing Cheever from the pits. It's benefited Cheever, who is now up to 6th position. Surrounding the final corner to start lap 54, we have now just hit 2/3 distance. It is Gerhard Berger who has a massive lead over Mauricio Gugelmin in 2nd position. It was 38 seconds before on the previous lap. Let's see what it is this time around, because Berger was in some form of traffic. And it could still be a battle for fifth between Modena and Chiva. Chiva has got much fresher tyres than the AJ in front of him, so Chiva could well be having a fifth position, potentially, underneath him. It depends what you can do about the AJ in front of him. The gap did go down between Gugelmin and Berger. It's now 36.8 seconds, but nothing for Gerhard to worry about. Now it seems that the only thing in Berger's way is himself. It'll be interesting to see if he can hold on for the final 27 laps. We've just seen a JGR Meister coming out of the race. I think it's Johansson. I think he's had a crash coming out of the exit of turn 7. We'll get a replay of that shortly. But now that means that there are only 6 cars left. You can see Johansson out of 4th position. And it is coming out of turn 7. So, here we go, going through turn 6 with the Swede. And then coming out turn 7. And I think they just shaped the tyre barrier, but such that it just ripped the right front wheel off. So somewhat unfortunate for Johansson, but nevertheless a bit of a costly mistake for himself. So now we have only got 6 cars left, and they consist of Berger, Gugelmin, Piquet, Modena, Chiva, and Arnoux. What a strange running order. Although not entirely strange to see Berger and Piquet up the order. Good drive from Piquet to get himself up to 3rd position, steering away from the chaos. 15th on the grid. And a good drive from Eddie Chiva so far as well, from 22nd on the grid, Modena from 18th on the grid. Arnoux, when did he start? He started 16th, and Gugelmin 13th. There's Berger, he was 4th on the grid, so fair enough. Yeah, that's all that's left. A Gajera, a Tornado, a JGR, an AJ, an Unbearable, and an Andrew F1. As we've seen, loads and loads of retirements. And they include both FJRs of Prost and Patrese. Patrese recently crashing out. And Ayrton Senna had a transmission failure while in the lead. And his teammate had a collision with Johnny Herbert, who also retired. Did Johnny, as did his teammate Jean Alesi. Unfortunate unreliability for himself, 4th in a row. Just seen Johansson crashing out. And we've also seen Nannini having an incident, Alboreto upside down. Mansell in that first lap incident with Patrese. Nakajima and Brundle crashing at the turn 5, exit of turn 5. And then Derek Warwick had that incident with Maurizio Gugelmin. Have I missed anyone else? I think I've covered them all, but no doubt somebody will say, oh, you've missed this one. And indeed, it has been a marathon. And Tornado Boss saying that it reminds him of the 2013 Australian FF1M race where only the point scorers finished the top 8. Yes, that was a massive unreliability fest, that one. Loads of drivers retiring from the lead, including Jenson Button in the returning X-Lite at that point. And then shortly afterwards, Lewis Hamilton suffered a loose wheel while in the lead. And that eventually led to Kimi Raikkonen taking the victory in that race, with Hulkenberg, I believe, in second and Kubica third. And then in that race as well, we were looking at the wrong Gajera winning the race, as we were looking at Perez, who was a lap down and I believe in fifth. It did actually catch me and the other commentator, which was James Whiteley. So we've got 24 laps to go in this grueling afternoon of racing at Phoenix, Arizona. And Berger now nearly 40 seconds ahead of Mauricio Gugelmin. Nelson Piquet 1 minute and 16 seconds behind Berger as they started lap 57. Now Berger is on lap 58, and just behind there you've got Cheever, who's now up into 4th position, so he has overtaken Stefano Modena at some point. So a splendid drive from Eddie Cheever. Seen him move from 22nd up into 4th. The Modena now down to 5th, but still looking good for a 5th position, and Remy Arnoux in 6th. So Berger is now on lap 59, and he's extending the gap nicely between the rest of the field and himself. He may well let Piquet come the end of the race. We'll see the gap between Berger and Piquet as they start this next lap, as Piquet is about to complete lap 58. Gugelmin 40.7 seconds behind Berger, so he's no threat to the Austrian. I think he'll be told to calm down a little bit now after his wild incident with Derek Warwick. It'll be a good result for Tornado as well. If it stays like this, then Tornado will probably move into the joint lead of the championship. JGR currently on 19 points, and they still have a driver in the form of Nelson Piquet in a 3rd position. That'll be 4 points for JGR. Tornado 6 will then move them on to 23. So tying with JGR. I'm not sure who will be leading the championship on countback, but either way, they'll be joint first. Who would be 3rd in the championship? It must be, I think it would still be FJR who would still be 3rd in the championship on the 12 points. But then they'll have Gajera moving up to 4th in the championship with 10 points. Then afterwards we have got Darkfire, who are on 9 points. That won't change. Then Willows will be on 5. No, Willows will be on 7 points. That won't change either. Pedersen 6th, that's not changing. Andrew Racing have got Rennie Arnoux in 6th position, so they'll go from 4 points to 5. AJ will have 2 points, with Stefano Modena currently in 5th position, struggling on his tyres a little bit, but no doubt he'll be told to calm down as well. Then the Unbearable would have 3 points, thanks to Eddie Cheever. That's if it stays like this, but we have still got 21 grueling laps to go, and a lot of these drives will be feeling it in the heat of Arizona. And what does this do for the Drivers' Championship as well, if it will stay like this? Well, I'll try and find that out for you. So if it does stay like this, Berger would be on 10 points, Gajera's only point scorer of the season so far. Then it would be, I think PK would still be leading the Drivers' Championship. He has got quite a few points to his name. I'm pretty sure PK would have, I think it'd be 22 points that PK would have. Has Johansson scored in points so far? I'll try and find that out for you as well. Yes, Johansson did score the 1 point in Brazil, so PK would be leading the Drivers' Championship with 22 points. Next up, I believe it would be, so we've got Nigel Mansell on 9, and then another 4, 13 points, and then another 4, that would be 17 points. So I think Mansell would still be holding on to second in the championship on these 17 points. Then Prost and Patrese will have 6 points each. Senna would be still stuck on the 9 points. Then Willows, that's not changing, neither's Pedersen. And Andrew F1 Arnoux would then have a point to his name. Nannini has 4, thanks to his third position at Monaco. Then Gajera, then I think the big beneficiary would be Gerhard Berger. I think he would move up into 3rd in the Drivers' Championship, ahead of Ayrton Senna and both FJRs. And it'd still be PK leading the Drivers' Championship by 4 points. In fact, by 5 points from Nigel Mansell. So Berger is still extending the lead of the championship. He's now 41.2 seconds, the gap between himself and Gugelmin in this race. No sign of PK just yet in Berger's sights. Half a second down on his personal best on this lap. His personal best lap is a 1 minute 30.035, which I think is still slower than Ayrton Senna's fastest lap of the race, which was set very early on. So that's through turn 11. And then through turn number 12. There's PK, and just entering the main straight, crossing the start-finish line, is Gerhard Berger. So it is likely that Berger will lap the Brazilian before the end of the race. So like we've seen in Brazil, we could just see the 2 drivers on the lead lap. Arnoux is catching up to Stefano Modena for 5th position, so that's not settled just yet. Could still have a change for 5th in the later stages. So Berger's going through turn 5, quarter of a second down on his personal best on this lap so far. So 3 corners, that's one of them gone, here's another. And here's the left at turn number 7. So first sector's got 4 corners, second sector's got 3, and the final sector has got 5 or 8, depending on how you like to count the final turn 12. So the gap remaining the same between Berger and Gugelmin so far, 41.6 seconds. It's pretty much half the lap, nearly half the lap in terms of time. And it is still Cheever in 4th position ahead of Modena and Arnoux. There could still be a battle for 5th developing between Modena and Arnoux. Modena was the first one to pit, not out of choice because he had that incident with, I believe it was, Nakajima at the turn 8 at the end of the back straight. So he had to bring his first pit stop forward. So Arnoux will be at a bit of a tyre advantage at this stage, but can he do anything with it on this treacherous circuit? We've rejoined at a very, very crucial moment as PK has now crashed out. Somewhere he's known as, you can see on the screen there, he's out. Why has he, what has happened? It's a gearbox failure, so now we've just got 5 runners left. And that moves Eddie Cheever up into 3rd position, goodness me. So that's a turn up. We'll recap it now. Lap 69, Berger still leads, and it's still about 45 seconds or so between Berger and Gugelmin. But it is now Eddie Cheever up in 3rd position. Tremendous result so far in his quest for points for the unbearable team. From last on the grid, he is now 3rd. And that's moved Modena up into 4th position and Arno up to 5th. And this is now all that's left. Just 5 runners. So I wonder where PK had that mechanical drama. And it was somewhere on the back straight. So coming out, so just going into turn 8. PK stranded car. So it's just gone bad now for the JGR team. It's still going good so far for Gerhard Berger in the Gajera. As he goes through to start lap 70, he's just got 12 laps to go now of this punishing United States Grand Prix, which has seen attrition beyond attrition. It's been less of a race and more of a demolition derby. The Americans like that, I suppose. Classed as a sport over there. Over here, we call it banger racing. A race that has seen lots and lots of carnage, chaos, crashes, and a whole lot of controversy between some of these drivers. We've seen tornadoes shattering their rear wheels after being shunted off wide by FJRs. We've seen Martin Brundle and Jonathan Palmer have a bit of a conflab going into turn 11. Then we've seen another tornado getting into the mix with what would have been Derek Warwick for 2nd position. And then we've seen people crashing out at corners, such as turn 3 in the case of Riccardo Patrese, and at the exit of turn 5 in the case of Pierluigi Martini, and there was another driver, Martin Brundle. So we've had our fair bit of action and chaos in this race, and it seemed as if it had died down, but we've just seen confirmation there of Nelson Piquet retiring. Now, I'd be interested to know, because Piquet would still be 6th, whether he would still be eligible for that point. I don't think it'll be past 90% race distance. I guess that will be up to the AFIA and whether AJ will reckon that Piquet should still get points even though he's not been classified. I'm thinking back to in real world, the 2005 United States Grand Prix, where we had that 6-car race between Ferraris, Jordans and Minardis. And even though Trulli and Raikkonen were technically 7th and 8th, because they weren't classified, they didn't get their points. 2 and 1 points were not eligible because they hadn't completed 90% of the race distance. I wonder what AJ will do here. It's not been a case of there's just been 6 cars taking part in this race. We did have a full field of 22, but it has been whittled down to 5. Hopefully we'll get confirmation of that at some point soon. And we're getting word that there's not going to be a race tomorrow. The next race will be an Boxing Day instead. And I think that will take place in Mexico. That will be the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. I will check that for you because it's only 10 races, so a lot fewer than an average FF1M season. And it won't be at Mexico, I got that one completely wrong. We'll be moving back to Europe and it'll be at the Paul Ricard circuit for the French Grand Prix. That will be taking place here on Boxing Day. So you should tune in for that one because it's going to be a much cleaner race on a much wider circuit. And hopefully, for Prost's sake, it'll go much better than it did here, because he disappeared very, very early on with what was confirmed to be a drive shaft problem. So something not going right in the mechanics of the FJR there. Bad race for FJR overall. They got involved in that first lap conflab between Riccardo Patrese and Nigel Mansell, where it looked as if Patrese just ran Mansell out of the road at turn 8. And then he recovered that and still had a chance for some points by staying out of it. But then he crashed out at turn 3 in what was a very strange incident. The car seemed to veer to the left, and it didn't get slowed down enough, and then crashed into the turn 3 outside wall. The Tornado boss reckons that PK won't get any points because he didn't complete 90% race distance, and that PK needed to complete 73 laps. I would tend to agree with that, but it'll be up to AJ in the end whether points will be awarded to just the top 5 or whether PK will get a sympathy point. That'll be confirmed when we rejoin FF1M on Boxing Day for the French Grand Prix. But we are still in the United States Grand Prix at this moment, with Gerhard Berger still leading, now on lap 73. Ugelmin will still be running in second position, he just needs to cross the line. Cheap has already crossed the line in third, and we should see Modena and Arnoux cross the line before Gugelmin do, but Modena and Arnoux are 4th and 5th, whereas Gugelmin is on the same lap as Gerhard Berger. There go Modena and Arnoux, and then shortly it will be Maurizio Gugelmin. Still got a while yet, as Gugelmin has still got, mercifully, a nice bit of clear track, and it's 48.4 seconds, the gap between Gugelmin and Berger, who is on a fairly quick lap, just set a decent first sector, and he's on a good lap. He's 7/10 quicker than his own personal previous best. So I think Berger's probably just having a little bit of fun out there in the lead for the Gajera. And he is now past 90% race distance, so no matter what, Berger will get some points. He'll be looking for the full 9, of course, which will be Gajera's first win of the season. And we'll have had 3 different winners in the first 4 different winners in the first 4 races if it carries on like this, as Berger sets a new fastest lap, a 1 minute 29.5. So Berger just definitely having some fun out there as he starts lap 74. So he's guaranteed at least 2 points, and once Chiva, Modena, Arnoux, and then Gugelmin cross the line, then they'll be guaranteed 2 points as well. But in which order? Well, there's only 8 more laps to go, and we'll find out once the race is completed in the next 8 laps. And unsurprisingly, the gap between Berger and Gugelmin has extended now 50 seconds, 50.055 to be exact. Berger not on a quicker lap this time, he's half a second down on his personal best, which is now the fastest of the race. I would like to see Modena and Arnoux and see how close they are, because at one point it looked like Arnoux was going to catch up to Modena in the closing stages, to maybe challenge for 4th position. See how close they are. I'll try and give you an estimate of a gap between those two as Berger completes another lap. Now, just 7 laps to go. Next across the line will be Chiva, but a lap down. And then the next 2 would be Modena and Arnoux. Chiva's definitely got the measure of those 2 on the much fresher tyres than the AJ. And I'll reiterate again, it's been a tremendous drive from Chiva. Despite a mechanical gremlin earlier on, still unknown at this point, Chiva has made his way right up the order and is now running in 3rd position. Stayed out of the carnage that has personified this race. And we'll get Modena, very close together, Modena and Arnoux, so there is still a battle going on between those 2 for 4th position. They are both guaranteed 2 points because we're now past 98% race distance and there's just 5 of them left. So we could still see some drama left between those two. As Berger goes through the final sector now. That was 8 and 9, here's 10 and 11. 12 corners on this circuit and 8 of them are all 90 degrees. There was a previous variant of this where it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 corners, and 12 of them were 90 degrees. That's the way American cities tend to be built. And I know James Whiteley likes this circuit quite a lot because it's a Phoenix Street circuit. It's so unimaginatively boring, the layout, that it's just one of those that you can't help but like. And it did produce a pretty good race in 1990 where we had Alesi and Senna have that very spirited battle between one another where Senna overtook him and then Alesi snuck past him going into turn 2 in a memorable overtaking manoeuvre, and that was the birth of Alesi. The exciting little Frenchman, very dramatic to watch, very fun to watch. Everyone loves Jean. So after this, Berger will only have 5 more laps to go. And it's 51.6 seconds now to get between Berger and Gugelmin. Berger put in that really quick lap a few laps ago. Now he's just pacing himself once again. Just going round the last few corners once again. In a very challenging final corner. There's some grandstands on the outside, and a desert past that in the background, and Berger does a 1 minute 30.4 this time around. And Arnoux has overtaken Modena for 4th position, and that was a clean overtake as well. So René Arnoux in the Andrew Racing is now on 3 points, and Modena now last, but still 5th position. So I wonder where that overtake took place. Could have been down into turns 8 and 9, as they haven't yet crossed the start-finish line when that happened. Yeah, I would expect it would have been going into turn 8 that time around. But that's 3 potential points for René Arnoux, and AJ would still get their first points of the season. 2 points to be exact, the 5th place for Modena. That's pretty much guaranteed now, with just a few more laps to go. 4 to be exact, and here is Berger. Going through the first corner. And he's still got a big lead over Maurizio Gugelmin, well over 50 seconds, and looking really comfortable now. So there you can see René Arnoux in 4th position, and there's Stefano Modena behind in 5th, and they're about to be lapped by Maurizio Gugelmin, but I don't think Gugelmin will want to get involved in that. He'll just want to sit back and enjoy the last few laps or so, and he'll be taking his first podium of the season for Tornado if it stays like this. which it is likely to. Oh, goodness me, Modena going through the wall pretty much, but getting away with it. And it doesn't really matter for him, actually, because he's the last runner out there at the moment. And still, as I said before, guaranteed 2 points. Is a driver hoping for 9 of those points, the full 9, Gerhard Berger crossing the line. 3 more laps for the Gajera driver as he hits a top speed of 283 kilometers an hour, going under the brakes for turn 1. Words to that effect, I suppose. Same engine in the back of the Tornado in Maurizio Gugelmin. Meanwhile, Eddie Cheever has got a Ferrari in the back of his Unbearable. Arno's got a Renault, and Modena has also got a Honda. So it's been a very good race for Honda, with 3 of their cars in the top 5. The only drivers remaining. Bad race for Ferrari. All of their drivers have retired from the race. And bad race for Judd as well, because we had PK retire with a gearbox problem, and Stephanie Johansson crashing out at that corner there, turn number 7. And the gap's still being extended between Berger and Gugelmin. It's now 54.5 seconds. I suspect both drivers will be pacing it over the last 3 laps. We've had 2 races at Phoenix before in the FF1M world. Back when it was the Masters era, it was in Season 1 and in Season 3. And there is actually footage of that Season 3 race on YouTube somewhere. That was won by, I believe it was Mika Hakkinen, who was driving for Maestro at the time. Then you had both Guy Racings finishing 2nd and 3rd. I will double check that though, because that memory's still a little bit hazy. So I have got the page up, and it was indeed Mika Hakkinen who won that one for Maestro Motorsport from the 2 gear racings of, at that point, he was the reigning champion, Nigel Mansell, who won Season 2, and his teammate was Ayrton Senna, so that was a heck of a team. But I seem to remember in that season that the Ford engine in the back of the gear racing wasn't a very good engine, because FJR also had a Ford engine, and although they were reliable, they only had a handful of points finishes because they were slow. And a minor review of that race I could give to you. It was for the opening round of the 3rd ever season. FF1M returned to the Phoenix Street Circuit, scene of the first ever race, which was won by A Racing's Gerhard Berger. And there is Gerhard Berger, about to start his final lap of the race. And once Gugelmin does that, Gugelmin will be guaranteed 2nd place, because he'll have completed the 80 laps. Cheever, Arno and Modena won't be able to complete lap 81 because they've been lapped. Anyway, back to the Season 3 review. We had from pole position, it was Fernando Alonso, who at that point was driving for Kino Plus, who had a terrific start that was passed by M Sport's Michael Schumacher at the start of the 2nd lap. But neither driver was destined to finish as Alonso's engine blew up, and then Michael squandered a huge lead by crashing into the barriers. And I believe that was coming out of turn 7, which Gerhard Berger is nearing right now. That's turn 6 for the Austrian. And then turn 7, which I believe was where Michael crashed out. And then other retirements included crashes for Ralf Schumacher in the newly named Dodgem. They were known as the British Lions back then, and both Willow Images. And in fact, it was a crash for Jacques Villeneuve at that turn 7 corner, which managed to destroy the M Sport of Jenson Button's front wing, delaying their races. No such delays for Gerhard Berger, as he's about to exit the penultimate corner, which he does no problem, and then coming out of the final corner now, there's 1, 2, and then there's 3, 4 apexes, and out of the final corner goes Gerhard Berger to win the United States Grand Prix in over 2 hours, 2 hours, 3 minutes and 13 seconds. That was a long, long race. A deserved victory, I would say, for Gerhard Berger, who's always in contention for a podium, and then once Senna dropped out with a gearbox problem, and Berger took advantage of that and controlled it from there on in. Coming home in second will be Maurizio Gugelmin, and Tornado are delighted about that. He can't quite believe it. Spare a thought for Nigel Mansell, though, because as the Tornado proved to be quite quick, Mansell could well have challenged for at least a podium, if not a victory. But one of my drivers sorted that. Sorry about that. It was Ricciardo's fault. Third will be Ed Cheever in what was a splendid race. And then fourth and fifth, Arnoux and Stefano Modena, and that will be it. Although Piquet will be classified sixth, that will be it. I don't think he'll get a point. So we shall see you for the next race, which will be broadcast on Boxing Day, and that will take place at the Paul Ricard circuit. So we shall see you for then.